Assalamu alaikum guys, today I'm going to be talking about my experiences of giving birth in a private hospital in Jordan and a public hospital in Jordan. I have been putting this off for ages because I don't know how to compact all of the information into one small video, so this is probably going to be quite long, but I will give like a summary at the beginning and then I will go into details later on, so those of you who aren't interested, you can just click off, it's fine, no problem. With both of my pregnancies, I was concerned about giving birth in Jordan because I wasn't convinced that I was going to get the kind of experience that I wanted. So with my first Adham, we decided to go to Jordan Hospital because the doctor that we were recommended, she only delivered at Jordan Hospital or at Farah Hospital. Farah and Istishari are the probably most popular among foreigners. So a lot of friends have delivered there and have had very positive experiences there at both hospitals. But we decided not to go to Farah because our doctor recommended that we go to Jordan Hospital because they're more set up for any possible emergencies that might arise, although I wasn't a high risk patient, so I don't really know why that matters. And also she said that we were going to be paying so much extra because of just the facilities that they have and because it's quite hotel-like. So we went with her recommendation, we went to Jordan Hospital. When Hashim came along, we decided that we were going to deliver at the Jordan University Hospital because my husband was working at the university by then. I ummed and ahed about this for a long time because people had told me not to deliver at a public hospital emphatically and that I wouldn't have a pleasant experience. But it was the best thing. I had an amazing doctor and I had an amazing birthing experience, and if I were to rate my two experiences, I would say that private was like a 2 and that the public was like an 8. I think it's really important to note at the beginning of this video that in Jordan you have a different relationship with your doctor. So what happens here is that you look for a doctor that is on your insurance, if you have insurance, and then you kind of negotiate with that doctor what kind of experience you want. And at the end of the day, it comes down to what you agree with your doctor and what he is comfortable to do for you. So the first doctor that I had with Adham, she had promised me a lot of things that went against the hospital policy and that she would try and make all of these different allowances. When it actually came to the day, I had a very standard delivery, whereas the doctor at the university, he did make allowances. He was very familiar with the system in the UK and he tried to give me as close to a UK experience as possible. So it really does matter who your doctor is. So I'll give some context about when I gave birth to Adham. I woke up in labour at about 8 a.m. and you text your doctors here. So I WhatsApped my doctor with my symptoms and then I left my phone and I walked away and I went and had a bath or something like that, and didn't know that she was texting me madly saying get to the hospital right now. Everything was going fine and I was very sure of myself that I was going to have a natural birth. I had done all my hypnotherapy practice and everything and I was very geared up for that. And pretty much as soon as I arrived in the hospital, the contractions became unbearable, and I think it was because the situation was very chaotic. Actually getting into the hospital, getting up to the ward, it was all very chaotic. So then we went straight into the labouring room, which was very small, and there was a curtain down it so that people, family members and things, are meant to stand behind the curtain. I think you usually only allowed one person in, but I had my mother-in-law, my mother and my husband in the room with me, and then all of these nurses and all of these doctors and people, I didn't know who they all were, and they were coming in and prodding me and poking me and making me sign different things, and very quickly I decided I was going to get an epidural. It just became too chaotic, I think. So I was in that room on my back. They wouldn't let me get up unless I needed to use the bathroom, and labouring on your back is meant to be the most painful way that you can labour, and I hadn't wanted to do that, but that was the only option. I wasn't going to fight it while I was in labour. And then when it came to crowning, the doctor then wheeled me through the ward into the delivery suite, which wasn't pleasant. I really didn't appreciate that I had to go to a different room to then deliver, and I didn't understand those things before when it was explained to me what was going to happen. I didn't understand how disruptive that would be and how disturbing it would be. But anyway, so they wheeled me through and I delivered, and also I had strongly requested that the baby be placed straight on my chest and that I breastfeed him immediately. And they didn't do that, but they told my mum and my husband, who were waiting behind the door, that that had happened and that I wasn't able to feed him, or I hadn't wanted to feed him. But actually what happened is they kind of dumped him on me, didn't really give me an option, and then whipped him away quickly after taking a photo. So they actually lied about saying that we had tried skin to skin and it hadn't worked or whatever. It just wasn't true. And then he was taken off for about an hour, and he was put under a light, and they cleaned me up and got me into the room and stuff, and I sat around waiting for him. And then he was finally given to me, and then they started harassing me about giving him formula. Everyone seems to have a different experience of this in Jordan. Some places they pressure you to breastfeed, and some places they pressure you to feed with formula. I feel like the majority of stories I hear is being forced to feed with formula. And it took a lot of willpower, and it was very frustrating to keep going over and over with the nurses and with the doctors and whoever that I was not going to formula feed him, and that he was crying because they kept taking him away from me, or whatever reason. That was another thing, that I was allowed to room in with him, but it was against hospital policy, because if anything were to happen to the baby, then they would have the responsibility. So they kept on coming in and taking the baby away. And then I would have to ring them up and say, can you bring him back? And then every time they would take him away, I'd get a phone call. They'd ring me up and say, he's crying, he's hungry, can we feed him with a bottle? And I'd be like, bring him back so I can feed him. So the room that I was given after I'd given birth was one of the best suites that they had to offer. It was a big room, but it felt a bit like a bed sit, to be honest. Okay, so with the public hospital, things were a little bit different. I had probably been labouring most of the day, but I wasn't convinced that I was in labour because I'd had a lot of false labour, and I went to bed just kind of convincing myself that it was just normal Braxton Hicks. And then I transitioned into active labour while I was cuddled up in bed texting my mum just about random stuff, and she was like, you know what, you're actually in labour. You need to think about getting to the hospital. And then around midnight, I went and woke up my husband and said, this is it, let's go to the hospital. And within seconds of telling my husband, the contractions suddenly went up a whole other level. I think, again, because the situation just got a bit hectic. So we got to the hospital sometime after midnight, and I think I delivered within an hour of being there, maybe a little bit longer. And I had decided I'm going to have an epidural. As we entered the hospital, I was screaming, get me an epidural. They took me through to my delivery room. And the lovely thing about this, had I needed to use it, the labour and delivery section is all the same. So there's a huge room with all facilities donated by UNICEF, I think last year or 2 years ago. So it's all just brand new equipment and lovely big space, and you don't have to change rooms while you're delivering your baby. And they cleared everybody out. I didn't really have anyone in the room with me. I had the resident who was on call, and she was who delivered my baby. She was absolutely brilliant. She was reassuring and professional, and she laughed when she needed to laugh, and she was serious when she needed to be serious, and she really put me at ease. And so they started to get me the epidural, and that whole process takes ages, and you have to sign things, and you have to call for the guy to come and all of these things. And he was really lovely when he came, but he was saying to me, it's probably too late. The epidural isn't like it might kick in after you've delivered, which was a big shock to me. He was like, you probably deliver in 10 minutes if you just buckle down and get on with it. And I kept refusing, and I wanted the epidural to work, and I kept making us wait. In the end, the resident said to me, you need to just let me break your waters and you'll deliver your baby, and it's not scary, and just you need to get on with it because you are prolonging the contractions and the pain. She said this to me a few times, and in the end I was like, all right, if you're sure, let's do it. And within minutes I delivered my baby, and it was absolutely amazing, and the epidural hadn't worked, and it didn't matter because I was in a very calm, reassuring space that I just felt very safe in, and I felt really safe in her hands, and my husband was with me the whole time. And they put him straight on my chest. We had immediate skin to skin, and it was just really perfect. They did take him away afterwards, and I did feel like he was gone for so long, and I didn't know what was going on. They took him to the nursery, and they were doing all the different tests on him and cleaning him up and all of those things. But again, because I had been treated with so much respect and felt so safe, I didn't have any anxiety about where he was, or if he was being taken proper care of, or if they were trying to force feed him formula. The room that I ended up in wasn't their best room that they had, but that's because their first class suites were actually quite far away from the delivery ward, and they had told us, you know, we can move you there straight away, and it's really nice. It's like a hotel, but every time we need to do a test on the baby or we need to check anything, you're going to have to come all the way back here, and it's quite a distance, and it means more time away from the baby, and all of these things. And we said, you know what, let's just stay here in this ward where we're right next to the nurse's office. So the quality of the room wasn't that great, and that's what people had kept on telling me, is that you might receive better care at the hospital, at Jordan University Hospital, but you won't receive better services. And that definitely was true. It was a very cramped, small room, but it didn't really matter because we weren't there for very long. The same issue with cleanliness, I feel like that is quite a general thing. Most of the hospitals I've been to in Jordan, I haven't really been impressed with their level of hygiene. And when I've been to Farah, I have been impressed with their level of hygiene. So that's something to consider. But actually the level of care is really second to none. Jordan University Hospital has recently joined the WHO and UNICEF Baby-Friendly Hospital Initiative. And that means things like skin to skin are encouraged and breastfeeding is encouraged. So I didn't once have somebody harass me about formula or the baby's hungry or anything like that. I had nurses coming in and checking that we were breastfeeding, that we were doing it correctly, and did I need any advice? Had I breastfed before? Could they help me in any way? Did I know what I was doing, basically? One of the major things that is different in Jordan about delivering in Jordan is that you aren't followed up on afterwards. So I believe in the UK, you get a midwife coming to your house once a week. And if it's not once a week, it's very regular, and she'll come to the house, check your baby's weight, check if you're okay, keep up with your aftercare as well as the baby, really stay with you through the process. Whereas here, you leave the hospital and you're on your own, and that is quite strange. It's also about what you're willing to look for. So if I wanted that constant aftercare, then I would be going to the doctor and having a weekly appointment with him. So that option is there. It's just not a standard thing. So to summarise, I am so happy with my experience at a public hospital compared to my experience at a private hospital, which I really wasn't that impressed with. If you have any comments, questions, anything you want to tell me about your experiences, I'd be really interested to know how much my experiences were influenced by who my doctor was. Okay, I've got jaw ache from talking too much. Ma salama, bye.